Vale.
¿Cuánto tiempo quieres para la primera pregunta? ¿Como 2 minutos? ¿Algo cortito? ¿O?
La primera 3.
La primera,
Y la
ok.
segunda que me dirija
4.
4.
Ya, 3. Ok, está bien. Solo estoy estimando. No, perfecto. Sí.
Y luego cuando entres de réplica,
2.
un par de ellos.
Más,
o sea,
más
todos,
cortito.
o menos. ¿Sí? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, delegates, participants. On behalf of the Spanish government and the Spanish Meteorological Service, I would like to welcome you to the side event on Women in Meteorology organized by the Spanish Meteorological Agency, and express our gratitude to the distinguished panelists accepting the call and to you for your attendance and consideration. The intention of the panel is to share with you and with the interested parties, as the side event is being recorded and broadcasted, on the successful histories and contributions from our panelists on the national, academia, research, government, intergovernmental institution on the matters related to weather, climate, and SDGs, and highlight the contribution to the World Meteorological Organization Gender Action Plan. Let me introduce our panelists. The Dr. Ann Stewart Ibarra is the Executive Director of the Inter-American Institute for Global Climate Research. She supports member states in their efforts to achieve the full and open exchange of scientific information relevant to global change for a sustainable Americas. She's expert on climate and health in Latin America and the Caribbean, and she has a PhD in ecology for the State University of New York. Thank you very much, Anna, to be here. Professor Diguirita Karnavati, sorry, is the head of the Agency for Meteorology, Climatology, and Geophysics of Indonesia and the permanent representative of Indonesia in the WMO, the World Meteorological Organization. Professor Karnavati has been appointed on the head of the BMKG in 2017. And before this current position, she was the president of one of the most important university of Indonesia. She has a PhD in Earth Science from the Leeds University of the United Kingdom and a postdoc in Agricultural and Technology of the Tokyo University. Thank you very much, Professor.
I was in Leeds for 1 year.
Mrs. Roselyne de Villiers is the coordination officer of the World Meteorological Organization, is the head of the New York office of the World Meteorological Organization, and is the gender focal point of World Meteorological Organization. She joined the UN system in 2008 after working in the private sector and joined the WMO in 2017. In 2020, she joined the cabinet of the Secretary General as coordinator officer, and before she supported the successful launch of very interesting and important initiative as the SOF initiative or the Early Warning System initiative. She has a master's degree in business management and strategy. Thank you very much, Rose, to be here. And finally, Dr. Aida Diongue Niang, who has been working for more than 20 years in the Meteorological Service of Senegal in several and important roles, including climatology, research-oriented interface, service delivery of climate and weather information. She has held management positions as the Director of Meteorology in Senegal and currently is Technical Advisor. Yes. She co-led the General Green Emergency Plan of Senegal, and she was a lead author in the IPCC Working Group 1, and right now is the vice chair of the IPCC Working Group 1 for the seventh report. She has a PhD in meteorology with a research in the West African monsoon system. Thank you very much, Dr. Anna, for being here. Well, finally, I introduce myself. I have been working for more than 20 years also in the National Met Service of Spain. In various and several works, like meteorology, numerical weather prediction, and etc. I have held some management positions also, and currently I am the responsible of sustainability, the director of the territorial aspect of IMET, and the focal point also in the gender focal point for IMET, and also in the conference of director of services of Iberoamerica, yes, AR3 and 4. So I have a PhD in physics by the University Complutense of Madrid. Okay, thank you very much. Let me pass to the question 1 for all the panelists, yes. As leadership of women in science, climate change, adaptation, natural ecosystem, adaptation, and meteorology, please share with us your experience and achievement to reach your currently position, and please share also your experience on how your initiatives were valued and encouraged in your organization or in your country or in your region? Has your professional career impacted seriously in your personal life? This is for you. Thank you very much.
You want me to start? Okay.
Anna?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for the invitation to participate in the event today. It's really an honor to be with such a wonderful group of women leaders here. So it's a big question, but just starting briefly, let's say during my PhD studies, I did a lot of field work. I worked on issues of health and climate in urban coastal areas, in communities in Ecuador. And I think being as a woman, in the body of a woman, that it influences my whole experience with the world, with my coworkers, with the communities I work with. And certainly there are, I think in some ways maybe helped me to connect more closely with the communities I worked with the community leaders, men and women, many women community leaders who are advocates for health in their communities, taking care of their family. But also, on the flip side, always was in the constant sense of insecurity. Of being a woman working in the community, there was always a constant sense of my safety, my well-being as a scientist and as someone doing field work. So that was a constant feeling, which, especially as a young woman doing research in Latin America, there was kind of an always underlying thread of being harassed from being on a bus to coworkers, this sort of underlying level of harassment that you kind of normalize, but then when you're not in that space, you're like, oh, that was not good, and what can I do now at a different stage in my career to ensure that that doesn't happen again to the women who I mentor and support and train? How does that not have to be normal for them? As I progressed in my career, I was a researcher and led a research program at a university in New York and loved the work, and was able to progress. And I had a lot of support, especially from some of my senior male mentors and colleagues. But I did find that there was a clear point when I felt like I hit a ceiling, a glass ceiling. And it just started with this sort of sneaking sensation that something didn't feel quite right. This sort of gut feeling. Why wasn't I having a seat at the table? It felt like there were conversations that were being had. I didn't actually feel like I was treated and respected as a scientist. But again, when I was in that system, because I was in the academic system, all the pressures to produce, to publish, to advance, it's hard to see it. Like, I could only really understand that once I was outside. And it was actually it was a good thing, because it pushed me to make my career jump, which is now in the intergovernmental space, supporting science now from a different side. And I love the work that I do, but it has helped me to see even more clearly how the academic and research system is really grueling to men and women alike. But women, I think, face many more barriers. And especially, I would say, working in low and middle income countries, the academic system can be quite cruel to women. And to be a woman is not just to be a woman, but it's the intersections with the color of our skin, with our age, with all of our identities that come together, and that is different for all of us. And the last thing I'll mention is that in my current role, I began as a science director at the II, and then last year made the decision to apply through a political nomination process for my current role as executive director. And there was kind of a big jump, a little bit scary, but I had support from my senior male mentors in the organization, actually more than the women. They were supportive of my movement in a senior leadership position. I actually got pushback from some of the women in the organization more than the men. And today, now, I am the first woman executive director in the organization after 30 years. And so I think that there is support, there's hope, but there are certainly many, many barriers. I have two children also, which means that the work never ends. I work 24/7. When my work day starts, I've already been working several hours before that, cleaning, cooking, getting kids ready. When my work day ends, my love and joy with my children, but the work, continues. And so it's wonderful, it's totally exhausting, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Thank you very much, Anna. Please.
Thank you very much. I'm really honored to be able to sit together with excellent ladies and moderator here. And regarding the question, first I would like to highlights that I'm really lucky. Although in Indonesia, the Asian, the role of women has not yet really equal, especially in the rural areas, and much more people living in rural area rather than in the city. So you can imagine that in general, yes, we need more efforts to empower women in our country, especially in the rural areas. However, in the university and also in the city, the equality has been quite good. But when I studied in the university, I was only two, me and my friend, the girl, among 60 boys, because I studied in engineering. For engineering, for STEM, numbers of women still limited, although that's in the cities. Yeah, so we must work harder, maybe 3 times or maybe 10 times harder than a man. So that's why by working harder, and I start earlier than the men start, then I finish later. So that makes us can be quite equal.
Yeah.
And then we used to work in the field as well. And also my supervisor, my lecturer, he's a man, but he always bring me to go to the field and to the community. So since in the university, I was trained to be able to translate science into simple language and understanding to the community. And I think this is very meaningful for me to bring me to achieve this current position. So my strength is, perhaps one of my strengths is due to the communication, science communication, risk communications to the community. And I work in disasters management, disaster mitigation, disaster early warnings. Most of the victims are women and children. So this is our duty to empower women and children in order to be able to empower themselves and to save others. So that's why this is the valuable efforts, I think, which can be done by me and other women in our agency. Actually, it's 50-50 in our agency. There has been many women, yeah. So and most of them are really talented, because once the women can achieve the position in it's quite good position, also can penetrate into the male agency, most likely she has been screened by nature that she has talents. So it is what I would like to highlight, the importance of women in the communication, in the passion, in the flexibility, in the open-minded, perhaps compared to the male. So that's what I would like to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Rose, please.
Thank you for having me today. I'm very appreciative to be with all these wonderful women. I would say, to respond to your question, I would say I started my career in the United Nations in New York. I started in what we call the DFS, the Department of Field Support. So I was supporting the field, the mission, the core mission of the United Nations. It was a very difficult environment, especially as a 25-year-old girl. You can imagine that I've seen pretty much everything. That really shaped me to become really an advocate for gender equality, not just in the UN, but in my life, in my private life, in anywhere I'm going. I'm trying really to be a gender equality advocate. Having said that, I think we made a lot of progress, especially in the UN, I would say. We are not there yet. Our Secretary General, the United Nations Secretary General, have said that we will reach equality in 300 years if we continue at this pace. 300 years is just not enough. We cannot accept that. And we have wonderful women here. We all know wonderful women. And we need to really promote them. Something that my colleague said, Anna, about not being supported by her female colleagues really resonate to me. Because I think, it's us. Don't let us be against each other. We need to support each other. We need to really come together and support each other, especially to go up. If one of us go up, we all go up. All of us. And I think this is very important. In my personal life, I have 2 kids, and I think I realize gender equality having my kids, my first daughter, but especially when I had my son. Because I think gender equality can be achieved not just by women, but by men, and started by us, mother, educating her son in a proper way. Educating them to be independent and not relying on a woman to do things for them at a very young age. Educating them to cook by themselves and to do their own laundry and to do things like that, for them to not expect their wife to do that. So it started at a very young age. He's 5 years old. And he knows how to cook. He's a very good baker. He made very good cookies. And I think this is where it starts. It's just not a fight only for women. It's a fight for mothers, for sisters. It's a fight for, really, we have many, many roles, and we need to fight in each one of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I tried. Can you?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
It's okay.
Well, great. Actually, I am here, and I brought with me a copy of a PhD thesis, and trying to read it between sessions, which is very difficult. But yesterday I started to read it, and I read that the young lady said that I was the one who inspired her to do her PhD, and it means a lot to me. And recently also I was involved in many outreach events, spreading IPCC conclusions, and I received also a lot of email back saying that how can we do to work on climate change? How can so? I am with a group of young ladies that I can mentor, even if I see them most of the time. Even the lady who's defending her PhD, I saw her some years back when she was doing her internship in my institution. I was not her supervisor, but I told her that we can discuss issues relating of her work. And I didn't think that I was the person who inspired her. And also other people, even men, recently some observers also told me that, keep reminding me actually that thanks to the process I put in place to recruit them based on their merits, because there was observers, but there was, how do you say it in English, there was benevolence, there was volunteers, yeah, for many years, and the institution keep taking people who are not volunteers, but we don't know on which basis. And it means a lot also to me, because when I arrive at the Met Service as director, when I get to this position, I try to have an empathic leadership styles and also transparency. And I think that for my staff there was no problem, but for my N+1, I needed actually to let him understand that I was not his assistant. And I feel that I was not treated as a professional, but sometimes like an assistant. And I needed to do my own battle to let these people understand that who I am and what I am doing. Actually, going back to the first question, I think I start with the last question. When I was young, even very young, I realized that there were inequalities in our societies. The way we treat women and men is different, was different, is still very different. And I told myself, I can't remember back, maybe I was 10 years, I told myself that I need to do studies, I need to go as highest as possible to get my independence. And I have the chance when I was studying, I studied in France mainly, and I did my PhD also in a wonderful group. I had 2 men supervisors who pushed me to go forward. I shared my office with a wonderful woman who was also a mentor for me. And it's what I try also to do, is giving back when I see young women or young people in general. But when I come back, I realize even if you are an educated woman, the society or even the workplace tend to put you in a box, to lock you in a box in some roles, like doing some socials sometimes, every time. I mean, it's important, but not every time. We have also our own work to do. And actually, I have three daughters, 3 daughters, and I am very happy to see also that they are questioning the society already, even my young daughters, saying, for example, often to her dad, why you are not cleaning like mom? It's not fair, you know? And I think also it's important that they realize this and they have their own battle also, and I think that can help the society to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much to be an example as meteorologists for the future meteorologists, generations, and science woman. Okay, next question is for you, Anna. It's about the SDG 5, the gender equality, because I think it's a cross-cutting issue. And the first question is, how will the SDG 5 interact or contribute with other SDGs? And how will this initiative at the countries in the pursuance of the social benefits and cross-cutting work on support and interaction with SDGs?
Can you repeat the second question? Sorry, Estrella. The second question, can you repeat?
How will these interactions between SDG 5 support and interact with other SDGs?
Well, SDG 5, focused on gender, like you said, is a transversal SDG. It seems pretty obvious, but half of the planet were born into female bodies, and every single person was born of a woman. So because of that, what happens in the lifetime of a woman affects all of humanity, actually. So that means women, if we have access to water, clean air, clean water, clean soils, employment, education, healthcare, that affects our own well-being, and therefore about half of the population on Earth, but also the well-being of every child, and the development of those children, and their trajectory, and their ability to grow and thrive and succeed in their whole lifetime. And we know that women are lagging, women and girls are lagging behind men and boys in most of the SDG indicators. And so the evidence is clear. We don't need necessarily more studies to show that. But I also want to emphasize that women and girls are not passive victims, that we are also the sources of innovation and solutions. And so this is why we need to create spaces where women and girls can bring all of our gifts to bear to address the issues of the SDGs, because if you are not bringing women to the table, we're not going to be able to make any progress as humanity. I mean, this is such a huge issue. So that's a very broad answer, but yes, it's transversal. I can give one specific issue, more examples from the field I work on in climate and health. For example, there are studies now showing that women who are exposed to extreme heat events, while they're pregnant, will affect the baby in the development afterwards. And so heat waves, how is that going to affect boys and girls who are born afterwards? And women are going to be disproportionately affected to these extreme climate events. How are girls and boys going to be affected now when they're in school and exposed to extreme heat? But it can go on and on. Flooding, heat, other kinds of disasters, infectious diseases. And as I mentioned in my opening comments, having worked with communities on health, women are the ones who are the caretakers of health. Not only in their household, but also at the community level. I have seen time after time women community leaders, when there are disasters and crises, it is the women community leaders who are holding up not only their family, but the whole community. And yet the resources and the support for them are often not there. And so there's such a huge need to support women in leadership roles at all levels, from the household, through the community, through these global leadership spaces.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments about the question? Aida?
Yes, actually, I wanted to look the interactions of SDG 5 and other SDGs through the lens of climate change impact. We know that SDG 13 is about climate change, but it does not mention explicitly gender. But yes, the SDG mentioned that 33 agenda recognize that climate change is one, I'm reading, of the greatest challenge of our time, and its adverse impact undermines the ability of all countries to achieve sustainable development. So gender, as other social inequalities, compounds the vulnerability of climate change. And as gender, climate change also is cross-cutting issues. And it affects indirectly gender through many SDGs, including the 2, zero hunger, 3, good health, water, yes, clean water, life below water, life on land. For example, if we take the SDG 6, which is related to water, the IPCC Synthesis report concludes that half of the humanity has already experienced water scarcity at least once a year. And we know that in many low, middle income countries, it's girls who have the duty of fetching water, which is getting less available. And this impacts also their education. So you see also the interaction, which is another SDG goal. If you take also energy, for example, in Africa, we know that 6 million of Africans do not have access to clean energy. Usually wood fuels are used as energy source, and it's also women who are going to fetch wood fuels and who use wood fuels for cooking, and it impacts also their health. You can see also other interactions between also SDG related to health and energy.
Thank you very much.
The
microphone.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm really agree with what you mentioned, especially the role of women during the disaster or emergency action. She not just dealing with herself, but also taking care with others. And indeed, it is what happened in the field. And beyond that, she also used to heal the situation to when everyone panics, and she could make cooling down the panicking, as well as to motivate for being optimist. So I really agree with what you highlight, how important is the role of women, especially in the emergency situations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next question is I would like to move to the World Meteorological Organization Gender Action Plan, and I invite Rose to share with us the status of the implementation of the WMO Gender Plan and the implication and results at the level of the WMO members and World Meteorological Organization regional associations. Please, Rose.
Thank you. Back in June, we, the members, our members, I presented the updated gender plan. And the gender plan is on 4 years and has to be accepted and voted by the members. To give you an idea of how the member really included all the comments in that plan, is that I received, for the first day when the plan was published, I received about 35 comments in the first hours. That give you the level of commitment of our members. So they were just like, and really good constructive comment, not just like delete this and delete that. No, I need that, I need that, I need that. We have 193 members, very diverse. So gender, I was very surprised that gender was on top of the top list. So, and very happy. Having said that, just to explain a little bit how a gender plan is designed. All the UN agencies have a gender plan, okay? The difference between WMO and another agencies like UN Women or WTO, our gender plan is not just for the Secretariat. Other plans are only for Secretariat staff. Our plan is very challenging because it includes 193 members. So it's not just I'm making myself better in the Secretariat, but I'm working towards making everything better in our 193 members. So obviously some of the members are extremely advanced in genders. Some of them are absolutely have no idea what gender equality is, or have just a little bit, and they're just touching the surface. So it's very challenging. However, what we are doing, and I'm going to give you a few examples. We are trying, for example, to give some training on leadership, especially on underdevelopment country. So we raise money, we raise financing to really try to have this leadership training all over the world. Also, I'm not sure if you know, but WMO is also in implementing partners of some of the projects from the GCF, from, Cruise, for example. Now, we are making a point to have a very strong gender component in every project of WMO. So we know that the donors and the money will go to one of the country and one of the Met service for gender. So this is very important for us. So it brings more resources because everybody wants to do genders, but who wants to pay for it? It's always the question. So it's very important also to know this. So having those projects within the region, within the country is extremely important. So that's what we do in national level. We do workshop and everything. But one thing we do is that as a gender focal point, I raise visibility for the members. I'm going to give you an example with Rita next to me.
I'm the project of her work.
She's my project. So back in September, we had the General Assembly in New York. And Rita came to visit us in New York, and she sent me a text saying, hey, I will be in New York. And I'm like, oh, great. So what I decided to do is working with the partnership office in the UN and have Rita as a speaker in very high-level panel. So Rita was speaking about her experience as a PR and her struggle in the PR in a panel member with Google, the chief of sustainability of Google, and all the high-level panel. And you know why? Because she, and as you can see, my PRs are really good, and they know how to speak, and especially women. You heard that. And they're really kick-ass women. Sorry for the kick-ass. But they are. But what I'm saying is giving them a platform, because this is what's missing for women in general, but more for meteorologists and scientific women. Giving them a platform, and then they will shine, And for example, she was invited by Amina Mohammed, her DSG in the United Nations, to be at the launch of Women Rise. And so she's, these women are the best advocate for gender. My job is done. Let them speak. My job is done. For me, this is my real job as a gender focal point, is to give them a spotlight, a visibility. Just before this event, she was on another panel that we organized with UN Women. So I gave her 5 minutes of visibility, and everybody's calling me saying, is she here today? Like, when is she leaving? And now she's booked, you know? So the same. So I invite, you know, every time you're coming to New York or every time, you know, you're going somewhere, I invite you to reach out to me to the gender focal point. I will always find a way. I will always find a way to put the light because it's worth it. And you are the best advocate for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, indeed, I should thanks really thankful to her as well as to WMO. So really make things different. Yeah. If we have to do by ourselves, perhaps it is impossible for me as a one speaker with the extraordinary panels in United Nations, but C and WMO facilitate or open the way, open the gate to the members, especially for the women members, to be more exposed, to have more opportunity to work together with others. So they work not for herself or themselves, but they work for other women to be more appreciated and more recognized. Thank you very much. It's very smart and wise way to do. Thank you.
You know, I always said that we are a secretariat. We work for our members. We don't work for ourselves. We work for our members. Okay? So she's like, oh, thank you. No, I'm just doing my job. You're doing yours. And I'm very happy to work with you know, with this
for the
woman.
good spirit, yeah.
Thank you. In Spain, I must say that we are especially also acting in equal matters and gender matters, and especially also in the Met service. Yes, we have a gender plan specific for meteorologists and
Spain
so on.
was one of the comments that I got in the 4 hours. So yes, you're very active and very constructive comments.
Yes, thank you. So regarding the role of women in senior and decision-making positions, I would like to invite Professor Karnawati to share her views on how increase STEM woman participation and how to motivate the interest to the meteorology and climate-related matters. Please.
Well, thank you very much for that question. The most of thoughts when we talk about the capacity or the opportunity of women in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and including meteorological sciences, most of the challenge is how the women can work in that ecosystem with flexibility. Because we know as women, she's the mother, she has children, so she needs, actually we must understand that she can have a special time when he have maternity leave, when she has problems with the children. We must be flexible if the kids have problems, yeah. Although we also encourage the men also have the equal responsibility to take care of children. It's not only the responsibility of the women, but also the men. But still, we need to have special attention on that. So this is what we must understand. And indeed, there are still limited numbers of women which can be in the decision-maker position. So I'm inspired by WMO, by her. I have to open the gate to give opportunity for the women to penetrate into that position by having more exposure to her. So indeed, WMO provides several facilitation for that with the leadership training, with several technical training for women. So this is gender conference. Next year, we are going to host the gender conference in Bali. This is the lady behind that, yeah. So I would like to invite all of you to join the gender conference. In that conference, we also have the showcase how the role of the meteorologist women in the local, in the field, in Indonesia, in the local area, how they make an important role for securing the community. So please come to Indonesia, to Bali. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So I just wanted to quote UN Secretary General. He said very recently, women and girls belong in science. And it's true. But a very recent study showed that starting 8th grade, which is about 12 to 13 years old, girls do not get interested in science. They just drop the subject in math and science. And why? Because at this age they realize gender. They realize what woman is supposed to be and what they see in society. And I think this is where the problem is, you know, the fact that they don't see powerful women. Like, we very rarely see a woman astronaut, you know. We very rarely see a woman scientist. Yeah, Mary Curie, okay, she's dead. I'm sure there's others we can showcase, right? But no. But they see men striving, old white males striving, you know, being president and so on. So how can I, you know, like, as a little girl, we've been there, 12 years old. If you don't see something, how can you imagine you can be it? And I think this is at this age, they really understand, like, there's a really this cutting point of, well, there's nobody like me doing that, so this shouldn't be right. So this is something we really need to work on. In New York, we team up with WIPO and ITU and the Columbia University, and we go and we gave 4 times a year, we gave training to girls about STEM. So we work like a whole day with a bunch of girls, really, and they're fantastic. Every time I do that training, at the end of the day, I'm like, so happy. But they're very interested and so full of ideas. They're genius. And we are really trying to reinforce the message that, well, it's an idea, you can just do it. You know, you have it all, do it. You know, and I think this kind of training at this age is really something to showcase and to build on, you know. Thank you.
I want to add a quick comment there. So my own training is more in the biological sciences, because I studied environmental science and biology. And in that field, actually there are more women graduating than men. So the issue is not getting women into the sciences. They're entering, they're thriving, and they are beating the men. The issue is that when you start to look beyond the degrees, you look at the associate professor, assistant associate professor, senior professors, the numbers plummet. And you say, oh, it's just that women are not interested in science. No, it's not that. For some reason, they're not able to do it. No, it's not that. It's that there's a hostile environment that is pushing women out of science. Women look for alternative career pathways when they suffer from harassment and from hostile work environments that don't allow for the flexibility, that are cutthroat academic standards, for promotion and tenure that don't accommodate for children, for example, and stopping the tenure clock or prolonging the tenure clock. And this was so clear during the COVID pandemic. You can look, so many studies have been published to show the effect of the pandemic on women's scientific productivity. Sure. And that's just kind of revealing what happens all the time. And so I just want to highlight that there's sort of this discourse of the leaky pipeline, and it's not a leaky pipeline. A friend of mine published a paper, and they call it, the hostile obstacle course that women are having to jump over and, to try to make it. And so there needs to be a change in the discourse also to really reflect what women scientists are living. And it's not just like this passive dropping out. No, that's not what's happening here.
I think she's right, because if you look at, I'm going to take my own organization now, it's going to be very visible. P4 level, we're going to have 40 to 60, 40 for women. P5 level, you're going to be a 30 to 70. And then you go to director level. 1. But, because I'm hopeful. But our members elected the first woman Secretary General for the World Meteorological Organization. Her name is Professor Celeste Saulo. She will take office on the 1st of January. We are very proud of her. And this is for me a huge, huge step in the right direction. It's not enough, yeah, but it's a huge step. IOM just did exactly the same. ITU just got Doreen. See the pattern, follow the pattern. It's not enough, but it's something that I think should be mentioned. Yeah.
Yes.
But in terms of harassment, I agree. You know, are we like, we are, like I think, I'm going to give you a very good example. 2 weeks ago, I was in a meeting, pretty much all male. I'm a very smiley person, right? I always smile.
Yes.
That's true. No, everybody knows me, I always smile. But at the camera right now, I was not smiling, you know? I don't know what I was doing, but I was not smiling. And my boss looked at me and said, wait, surrounded by everybody. Why don't you smile? You always smile. And I'm like, excuse me? I'm a woman and you ask me to smile. I should be look like and beautiful. That doesn't work that way. So I think there is also something here that shows you that we are not there. Because you will never ask somebody else to smile. I mean, a male, for sure. But yeah, in terms of like culture and everything, yeah, sure. There's a big culture that needs to be changed. That will take time, but we all together doing that.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I want just to add it also for the first time in the last IPC cycle, we worked online and approved the report online. And for me, it was very difficult because I had 3 children and they were also at home. So it was a very hard time for me. And just to add about harassment, for example, in IPCC, you have the highest standard of scientists, but the survey we had showed that there was some harassment. So it's everywhere in any place, actually. And we need to. Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah. Just positive notes. Yeah. In the Secretariat, we allow now flexible work time. So you can work from home, women or men.
Oh.
Yeah, you can work from home. You can also have a longer maternity leave. So instead of 6 months, you have 9 months now. You have breastfeeding policy. So when you're breastfeeding for 2 years, you can take 2 hours per day, of your work day. And, you know, in the morning, lunchtime, or a shorter day to go breastfeeding. I was pregnant. I have all this advantage. So we moving in the right direction. Slowly.
Yeah. There's
slowly,
some hope, yeah,
but surely.
Yes.
Yeah.
The best path. Okay, thank you. In regard to the next question is for you, Aida, please.
Yeah.
In regard to the decision on COP regarding important initiatives such as the climate action or early warning for all, how do you know gender matters could be considered or included in this important ongoing initiative? And which was the biggest lesson for highlight regarding the inclusion of gender-related considerations? What do you think,
Thank you,
Aida?
Sarah. I think Rita has already mentioned some issues related to gender in regard to extreme events, early warnings. And actually the effect on climate and extreme events are not gender neutral, actually. This is due to some constraints in the society. The role assigned to men and women are different. The fact also that women tend to also help others before them. All these aspects. And the fact also that the women usually have difficulties to access to the information, depending on the country, and have perhaps less literacy in regard to this aspect. All these facts need to be taken into account if we want to ensure early warnings for all. And we need also to understand also the vulnerability related to genders, because it's not only about meteorological products, it's also about understanding the vulnerability and the exposure when we talk about risk management. And we need also to better understand this vulnerability at local scale also, which is not easy, but we need to go this way. And developing products also, we need to think about women activities. In some countries, women activities are different. Maybe if you take, for example, agriculture, we know that men tend to grow this type of crops, women other type of crops. We need to think about it in order to not perpetuate the existing inequalities. And also in terms of access to the information, we need also to think about the right channels for everyone, men and women. It's important, perhaps also working with women groups. In my country, we had some experience in the field, and we see that working with women groups helps to disseminate the information, all these aspects. I don't know, we have some people want to add. Other lady want to add.
One of my mentors, she's a beautiful woman, very smart. She said to me in a young age, she said, hey, it's exactly like a plane. Put your mask before you help others. And I really think it's something that resonates to me. Like we tend as women to prepare and make sure that everything is good, but we forget ourselves, so.
Maybe
thank you very much.
Later.
Yeah,
later.
We have just 2 minutes or less.
Okay.
No, please
go.
Yeah,
Briefly.
I would like to highlight what Aida mentioned. It is really important role for the women, especially in the early warning for all. And she mentioned that women still have limited access for the information. And that is the main challenge that we have to tackle. Because once women receive the access of information, the natural behavior of women is like to tell the story. So let the women understand, then she will automatically telling everyone what people must do, have to do. So I really support that effort, idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Perhaps I wanted just to add one word on, because you mentioned IPCC.
Yes.
In the 6 cycles there was a box cross-chapter box in working group 2 about gender, but I foresee that in this cycle the question related to gender equalities and also indigenous knowledge, indigenous women also suffer a lot on climate change impact. This subject will be prominent in the scoping meeting, and we have also a gender action.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
To you, and thank you.
Thank you.